As twilight descended upon Paris with its customary gentle hues, Camille found himself nestled in a quiet corner of his family's modest home tucked away on Rue de la Paix. The air was crisp and carried the unmistakable scent of an approaching change or blend that seemed to whisper through the cobblestone streets with both anticipation and trepidation. Tonight, Camille's heart felt as restless as a leaf caught in the autumn breeze, for tonight was not just another evening under neon-dress Paris, but an epochal might where history would be rewritten amidst gunpowder and fervor. Camille had often heard tales spun by his grandfather, stories of grandeur from times before the Revolution or world, when nobles sat in silk-clad ease within their opulent chateaux, while Camille's own family's pockets were as empty as a beggar's. These recollections had not merely been an idle pastime, but threads woven into his very being, tales that now seemed to echo with prophetic truth in the leaden air of July 14th. The sound of distant musket fire reached Camille's ears as he watched through half-closed lids from under a tattered quilter shield against nightmares born not just of fear, but also dreams where his own voice joined the unrestful cries for liberté, fraternité. Today was to be that day when such words would seep into reality. He felt as if they had already claimed a part of him from years gone by, a reluctant witness becoming an unwitting participant in this uprising against centuries-old inequality and suffering wrought upon the common man's back. Camille's mind danced with images conjured by his grandfather, parades, cries for justice ringing through public squares. Faces like Camille's own were etched into a collective resolve made tangible only in those hallowed moments when the heartbeats of one city synchronized. The Bastille loomed as that symbol or monolithic representation of despotism and oppression, now on fire not just with flames, but also with an insatiable desire for freedom. As he lay there beneath his quilted veil, Camille's thoughts were a tempestuous sea, waves crashing against the rocks. Memories that had once been distant landscapes of yore now seemed to merge into one relentless force pushing him towards this historic moment. The raw and tumult from beyond Rue de la Paix reached his ears like an orator's clarion call, urging Camille outwards with a power he could neither deny nor ignore, as the Bastille's fate hung in the balance of that very same air, a breath shared by millions. The night wore on, and so did their patience. Each heartbeat was another ticking clock counting down to an imminent dawn, one where not just Camille, but every weary soul yearned for a day free from hunger's shadow, or the yoke of royal decree of France reborn under sunlight born in blood. And as sleep evaded him like water through fingers too dry and parched to hold it close, he found comfort knowing that come morning Camille would rise not just with a body but also with spirits unshackled by fear or past subjugation, or citizen reborn amidst the echoes of revolution. Tonight's dreaming was different. Tonight it promised hope and transformation in every sigh that stirred his lungs, each heartbeat an affirmation to not just survive, but also thrive, as Paris stood on precipice, her city ready for rebirth at the break of day. The night had been long since the day began to break on Parisian rooftops like molten gold seeping into crevices of cobblestone alleys, and with each passing moment his weariness seemed more an adversary than a companion or shadow that clung too tightly. Yet Camille knew this was but one chapter in the story, where he stood at its heart. It would soon be time to write another as dawn approached on wings of urgency rather than slumber's cloak. His thoughts wandered backward through his day, recalling how they had started, a simple routine disrupted by whispers that grew louder with every step towards the Bastille, and its iron gates looming like foreboding statues of oppression in a garden where democracy should have been blooming. Camille remembered being one among those who shared their grievances, each voice adding to an anthem rising from below as they marched through winding streets lined with the very symbols that upheld royal privilege, a parade not of celebration but a pilgrimage towards hope and change. Now, in his humble bed at the inn, he could still feel the thrumming pulse beneath him. It was as if each heartbeat echoed through time to this night, where every citizen's spirit dared not be tethered by fear or past subjugation any longer. And Camille felt a kinship with those who walked in Solidar 09538 before them, knowing that tonight's dreaming was different, not of escape, but rebirth, as the city teetered on precipice's edge and morning light threatened to break through clouds heavy with promises. As he lay back onto his straw mattress, Camille closed his eyes for a moment longer before opening them once more towards an unseen horizon where stars bore witness not just in memory but as guides that lit the way of revolutionary night when Paris stood on precipice and whispered secrets to those who dared listen. The past had been heavy with chains, yet tonight promised a different weight upon Camille's shoulders, one born from resolve rather than despair, where his heartbeat became an affirmation of survival interwoven with thriving amid the echoes that told tales not just of rebellion, but also resurgence. And as sleep evaded him like water through fingers too dry and parched to hold it close, he found comfort in knowing come morning Camille would rise not only because his body demanded rest after a day spent among change's architects, but more profoundly for the spirits unshackled by fear or past subjugation. He was no longer just an individual soul caught between eras of old and new. He had become part of something that transcended personal narrative, a citizen reborn amidst revolution's afterglow, a witness to history not as observer, but participant in its most transformative chapter yet written on the canvas of human endeavor. With his resolve firming like cement beneath tireless marchers' feet and hearts beating with purpose beyond self-preservation, Camille knew that come dawn's first light-eyes night would carry him into a day where he did not just live, but lived as history itself breathed through the streets of Paris. Tonight was one to remember. Tomorrow promised freedom forged in sacrifice and courage born anew from unity's crucible, all under skies that whispered tales of bloodshed birthing liberty, or France reborn basking not just in sunlight, but also its own indomitable spirit rising with the dawn. And as he surrendered to sleep at last, Camille allowed himself one final glance backward through his mind's window pane, a vision of Paris under night's cloak now replaced by hues that spoke not just promises whispered in shadows, but bold declarations etched into daylight, a city ready for rebirth as the Bastille stood silent, its gates no longer looming barriers, but testimonial relics to freedom's first tremors felt beneath feet set upon cobbled stones. As Camille's breathing eased into a rhythmic cadence with the night breeze that whispered secrets of change, he allowed himself to drift deeper into sleep or tender surrender after his day among revolutionaries who chiseled freedom from stone and spirit. The room around him dimmed further, as if even darkness itself held its breath in anticipation for tomorrow's promise. The sun had not yet graced the horizon when Camille awoke, greeted by dawn's tentative light that seemed to hesitate before seeping into his chamber windows, or prelude of thoughts, as Paris stirred beneath its golden hue on this fateful morning following such tumultuous night. Camille, dressed in garments stitched from the very same threads woven with fervor and hope, donned a hat that seemed to shelter not just his brow but also an unspoken pact of solidarity amongst Parisians, a tangible reminder that every thread was spun by hands eager for change. At breakfast, Camille's eyes met those of fellow citizens who shared stories with him, tales steeped in the night's events and a collective yearning to see their beloved city unshackled from monarchical chains, or communion that strengthened not just his resolve, but also imprinted upon his heart an indelible sense of belonging. As Camille left his home, he passed by cafés, doors where whispers and warmth mingled in the air. Cups clinked softly as if to affirm their shared aspirations for a republic born from unity, or convivial prelude that underscored every step towards liberation. Wandering through narrow lanes, Camille's boots kissed cobblestones worn smooth by countless feet marching before him, stones embedded with the echo of footsteps rippling across time to summon forth a new era where citizens were not just participants but architects, in affirmation that they held power in their hands and hearts. Camille arrived at the barricade, an unspoken oath passed amongst his compatriots as he joined forces with them. Resolve set firm like cement beneath marchers' feet became visible not just through sweat-soaked brows, but also beaming eyes that held a vision of tomorrow, or testament to their willingness to risk everything for the birthright they envisioned. Within arm's reach, Camille felt his hand rest on cold steel and wood. It was an artifact born from desperation, yet now cradled in hopeful arms, as if each soldier's touch whispered tales of sacrifice or shared history that forged strength between them to stand against tyranny. As the sky darkened once more, Camille found solace beside a fellow revolutionary whose eyes gleamed with stories untold. Their conversation was not merely an exchange, but also affirmations etched into each word spoken, or communion of souls who recognized that they were all partakers in something monumental. The night's battle raged on. painting the streets and skyline alike as Camille stood shoulder to shoulder with his comrades. Their shouts melded together like a symphony composed not by musicians, but by those united for freedom, or crescendo of voices that resonated through every crevice of Paris. When dawn threatened once more, Camille and the survivors found reprieve in an alleyway wherein clandestine meetings were held. Here they plotted not just strategies, but also dreams for a future unbound by oppression, or sanctuary that pulsed with ambitions as resilient as their spirits. The sun climbed higher, heralding the day Camille had yearned to shape into one of legend. He wandered through newly liberated quarters where joy and relief blossomed like flowers after a relentless storm, or vibrant testament that, even in darkness, hope could flourish. In caps now unshackled from royal decree, Camille sipped coffee amidst laughter infused with the thrill of victory. He marveled at artisans who dared to paint their dreams on canvases once deemed too provocative for such true silent rebellion that colored Parisian life in hues previously unseen. As Camille embraced a friend whose arm bore the scars of sacrifice, he understood now more than ever what it meant to live as history. Their shared glances were not just greetings, but also acknowledgments, or silent pact between souls interred as Camille meandered through cobbled streets that once echoed with orders rather than songs of freedom. He paused to trace his fingers over freshly paved paths, or tactile reminder of a world reborn from ashes and rubble. His gaze lingered on the faces passing by, eyes brightened not just by sunlight, but also hope's undying glow that seemed etched into every visage in this place he called home, now untethered to an ancient argime that had long since crumbled away like a forgotten ruin. The caps opened their doors with the promise of fresh beginnings. Camille entered one whose owners still wore expressions heavy with loss, but also peppered by smiles tinged in victory's sweet aftertaste, or dichotomy that spoke volumes about humanity's complex nature. He settled into a corner, enveloped not just by the warmth of waxen candles and roasted coffee beans, but also by camaraderie shared among those whose hearts had known too much fear to know nothing at all now, when they could dream again under Paris' watchful spire city that seemed like it was awakening alongside them. Within the confines of this refuge, Camille found solace in stories told over mugs where steam curled upward as if trying to reach into his own heart for warmth and understanding. Tales were not just recounted, but lived once more through every sigh that exhaled from those who had endured much. The air was thick with the heady fragrance of rebellioners, strong in its essence here, as it could be, unspoken yet powerful enough to stir even Camille's soul into a fervent dance for change and equality. He felt himself part of something far greater than his own ambitions or desires. The day wore on like the pages of an unfolding novel or narrative penned in defiance, courageous strokes across paper that held on to life's most precious resource, freedom itself. Camille's eyes traced over fresh murals along walls where once only drab colors existed. These canvases told a story not just of the present struggle, but also whispered promises of what lay ahead, or future painted in vibrant pigments that mirrored resilience and hope's very essence. Amidst this newfound freedom, Camille sought out old friends whose lives had been disrupted by years of tyranny. He discovered a young woman with eyes reflecting the sky above a mosaic formed from shades once blotted by tears, but now clear as hope's horizon promised liberation. Their conversation flowed like water finding its level, and in their shared laughter lay an unspoken understanding that had carried them through darker times. It was a connection forged not just between two souls who were more alike than different, or unity born from the crucible of hardship, but tempered with dreams yet to unfold. In his heart, Camille knew this day would etch itself into memory like an indelible stain. He had walked through streets where whispers and fear once lurked in every shadow now gave way for songs that soared higher than the eagles, circling above that chorus of liberation, serenading them towards a dawn tinged with possibility. And as Paris itself seemed to breathe freely, Camille's spirit melded its rhythm into his own. He felt himself an integral thread in this historic tapestry that wove together the strength and courage of every human heart touched by revolution's transformative power, city reborn under their hands. The chapter closed with a promise, not just for Camille or Paris, but also for all who sought to reclaim dignity from despots' clutches. This was no mere battle fought in the name of progress alone. It had become an odyssey etched into human history by unyielding spirits whose footsteps echoed through time, a symphony composed not just on grand stages, but also whispered in alleyways where hope took its first breath. And as night began to settle over Paris like the tender kiss of Mother Nature's embrace after an exhilarating storm, Camille stood alone yet united with millions who shared his dreamer testament that even when shadows loom large enough to eclipse daylight's warmth, love and freedom would always rise in their stead. In the hush of twilight's embrace, under a sky streaked with purples and blues, as if painted by Providence itself, Camille whispered into his heart an oath or vow to carry forward this torch that had as the first stars pricked holes in the blanket of night, and twilight's gentle fingers caressed Paris. Camille stood atop Montmartre Hill, with his heart echoing the resolve that had become a roaring fire within him since he arrived weeks ago to breathe freely for himself and to reclaim dignity from despotism's grasp. With each breath drawn into a new-found liberty's embrace, Camille felt less like an individual soul yearning for change in the quiet hours of Parisian twilight. Instead, he was a part of something much larger, a collective dream that had been stirring since long before his arrival to this city, where revolution's echoes were as old as time. The night air carried whispers and promises like petals on an unseen wind, bringing with it the sense of fresh rain upon cobbleists and memories steeped in a history that now seemed less distant than ever before. Camille remembered his grandfather's tales, how he himself had witnessed revolution when France was not just young but boldly vibrant against Europe's tapestry, how it carried the light of hope for generations to come, as sure and steady in its march towards change as a river carves through stone. The next morning found Camille awakening beneath layers of dreaming Paris, or city alive with fervent hearts beating against oppression's cruel hand. He stepped into the streets, where once silenced voices resonated louder than ever before, their words painting a picture so vivid that even as he navigated through them, Camille felt himself inseparably woven within this masterpiece of human endurance and spiritor, city reborn under his very feet. He journeyed to the Place de la Revolution, where banners fluttering like doves against a backdrop of dark skies bore witness not just to freedom's fight, but also embodied it in their colors, as if hope itself had found its former kaleidoscope that dazzled Camille's soul with every step he took. The murmurs around him spoke stories, wherein each syllable danced like flames upon a bonfire of dreamers who refused to be smothered by fear, their aspirations too bright for any but the most determined despot's gaze. In this living history that unfolded before Camille's awestruck eyes was where he found his brothers and sisters in struggle, every person an artist of change, whose brush strokes were bold declarations written not on canvas, but upon cobblestone streets, every note sung a ballad so piercing it cut through the heart like sunlight. Here lay Parisian resolve that had been brewing for centuries beneath silent stones, and quiet words or strength born from necessity, as enduring as love itself. At an impromptu gathering in the shade of an ancient oak, Camille met Lodi. Her eyes bore into his own with a kindred spark that promised shared purpose beyond mere companionship. She too had come seeking liberty's touch after tales from distant lands where whispers could set worlds alight, or smother them in darkness, or pilgrimage of the soul to places untouched by tyranny's chill hand, only found it journeying through revolution itself. Together they witnessed a candlelit vigil on Place de la Bastille that night, where hearts joined hands not just for what was lost, but also embraced an uncertain future ere silent pact sealed with flickering flames, and the soft murmur of unity against despot's silence. As Camille stood shoulder to shoulder among those who spoke louder in defiance than any cannon's roar, he felt his spirit merge into a tapestry so vast that individual threads like himself seemed inconsequential, yet every thread was essential for the strength and beauty of this human weave. Their journey took them to Les Halles, where once bustling markets lay abandoned by fear's heavy hand, but now stood as silent sentinels over a burgeoning hope that grew like seedlings in cracked pavement, or testament not just to the resilience of Parisians who refused despair's embrace. In these desolate stones and echoes, where bargains were struck amidst cries for freedom, Camille found stories etched into every crevice, tales that taught him strength was often born from loss, or phoenix rising not in spite, but because of the ashes it must tread upon to touch sky. Their shared resolve grew like tendrils around each other's hearts when they stood before Notre Dame, Hands clasped, Camille sat with his knees drawn up towards his chest as he wrapped himself in an old quilt handed down through generations of revolutionaries who came before him. Within its folds was a piece of lacework that bore the insignia of tricolor, blue-white memento from a time when such symbols were brandished not to mark territory, but for unity against oppression. The group sat in near silence as they watched two stars fade into twilight's embrace and felt an unspoken kinship grow with the night itself, sharing tales of their loved ones back home, of tender moments lost amidst cries that echoed through history's corridors long after. Each shared story seemed to weave a stronger bond between them all. They were no longer just individuals, but custodians of hope for those who would follow in their steps should the need arise once more. It was then, when Pierre broke into song melodies so hauntingly familiar yet imbued with newfound meaning, that it seemed to embody Paris itself, a city resilient and unyielding even as its cobbled streets turned silent in fear's cold grasp, only for the indomitable spirit of liberty's children to rise like perfume against this frost. Pierre sang not just words, but offered his soul into every note that rose above their heads, or balm soothing wounds unseen beneath clay-colored robes and starched white armor which masked the revolutionaries' determination with anonymity's veil of commonality in Parisian fashion. As dawn crept upon them like a gentle lover awakening from slumber to kiss their cheeks goodbye for one final time before departing on separate paths, each carrying tales that would be passed down through whispered legends and bold proclamations alike, Camille realized the power of stories was not just in preserving memories, but also kindling fires anew. He left with a heart fuller than when he arrived, knowing well his journey had etched itself into something larger. For as long as humans yearned to be free from shadows cast by despots, silhouettes against the horizon of oppression, their resolve would continue to burn brightly like stars, flickering defiantly in night's embrace. And so Camille ventured forth into a morning not quite day, and certainly no longer darkened with uncertainty. He walked toward Les Halles, where his heart once beat as one amongst the many, now silent sentinels of resilience, that stood guard over dreams yet to be born from shared sacrifice or living testament that freedom's song was worth every tear shed upon its composition. As he reached out for a handshake with another revolutionary before parting ways at the marketplace, Camille knew his spirit had merged into this tapestry of human endeavor. Individual threads, such as himself, might seem inconsequential against the backdrop of history's loom, but every thread was essential, intertwined within strength and beauty. With a bow to those he met along life's unpredictable path, Camille acknowledged that their shared resolve had grown like tendrils around each other's hearts, clasped together not just by hands before Notre Dame Cathedral, but also in the silent understanding of kinship found within revolutionary souls. And though chapters yet lay ahead, unwritten, and futures still shrouded in mist, Camille felt an embrace from history itself as he stepped forward, his chapter a whisper among many that would echo through time's corridors, his story one thread amongst infinite patterns woven into the vibrant fabric of Parisian law. He carried with him not just memories, but also seeds sown in hope's fertile ground, where from even desolate stones and echoes beneath Notre Dame's awe-inspiring visage would sprout tales that touch sky phoenix rising because of the ashes upon which it must tread. And so Camille found solace in knowing he was not just witness to history, but also its humble scribe, chronicling resilience. And Camille's gaze drifted towards the Seine as he sat on a bench near Notre Dame, his heart echoing with quiet gratitude for this moment of reflection amidst the Parisian bustle. The air had grown cooler by late afternoon. Shadows stretched long and golden across cobblestone streets that whispered tales older than time itself. In these final moments before nightfall, when people began their retreat from daylight's embrace, Camille felt a kinship with the Seine's endless flow, or sense of eternal movement, despite being anchored in one spot by life's unforeseen tempests and tender reunions alike. Yesterday had been an odyssey that began at dawn beneath Notre Dame, before her towers rose above Paris like benevolent guardians against the horizon, their spires reaching for salvation from past tragedies, while cradling history in its marble bosom. It was there Camille met Tina, fellow traveler with eyes reflecting a tempest as profound as any he had witnessed within these sacred walls, or felt beneath his own chest, where the heart's revolutions were often unnoticed yet ceaselessly vital to one's existence. Time led Camille through winding alleys and grand boulevards that Paris whispered secrets down her narrow streets before they could be told in hushed tones within a café where murmurs mingled with the scent of fresh baguettes from patisseries nearby. They shared stories over steaming cups, their voices lapping at one another like waves on Seine's surface, each anecdote building upon layers that only those who lived and breathed Paris could fully comprehend or appreciate. In the heartbeats between chapters of exploration lay quiet conversations by candlelight about dreams unfulfilled, love lost to time's relentless march but not forgotten within their hearts. Silent archives, where memories flickered like shadows at dusk, a mosaic as intricate and hauntingly beautiful as the facades that lined Parisian quarters. Through shared laughter, they traced lines of connection over crates repurposed into benches worn smooth by countless hands, seeking solace in communal respite, or exchanging pleasantries under umbrellas shielding against both rain and the more unbidden elements that life may cast upon one's path. The night encroached as they continued their pilgrimage through a Paris where every street corner held whispers of yesteryears, where each lamppost seemed to glimmer with tales waiting for curious eyes or ears willing enough to listen to the silent songs sung by stones and echoes that reverberated beneath Notre Dame's mighty presence. On this night, like any other in Parisian history yet untouched, they stood before an open door of a bookshop nestled between time-worn facades where stories breathed within leather-bound covers or the scent of aged paper and forgotten dreams. Here Camille discovered his first love for words that would become as integral to him as breath itself. In those intimate hours, they found solace in shared humanity of kind wrapped tightly around two souls who had traversed tumultuous paths, only to find common ground beneath the watchful eyes of revolutionaries immortalized by brushstrokes on canvas or carved into stone. They walked through a museum where masters spoke without voice, and their silent conversation rippled across centuries, felt in Camille's fingertips as he traced contours shaped with passion that transcended time, or communion of spirit between artisan hands long stilled by the march towards tomorrow. As moonlight spilled through a window onto their table for one at an outdoor cafe, Camille felt like every shared glance and sip brought them closer within arm's reach amidst Paris, vast embracer city that hummed with echoes of joyful laughter yet held the depth of despair in its chipped marble busts. In these moments, where time seemed to pause, allowing heart's beats instead, they wandered into a garden cloaked by twilight's embracer sanctuary for those who sought refuge from Paris' relentless pulse, or simply wished to lose themselves within the whispers of nature that danced amidst foliage like spirits untethered. Their journey through night had brought them here, beneath a canopy where leaves rustled secrets into Camille's ear. Symphony played for those who listened with patience as Paris' heart continued as Camille took a deep breath, inhaling the rich scent of jasmine from nearby blooms and earth beneath his feet. He found himself once again contemplating their shared experiences that seemed to weave an intricate tapestry across time itself. Their journey had brought them back here in this very garden where history whispered through every petal-laden branch overhead, and the air felt thick with memories of days long gone by, yet alive in present moments under twilight's watchful gaze. The city hummed softly behind him as he walked along the cobblestone path towards Camille's favorite spot, or hidden glade, where light solaced through canopies to reveal the heart of nature, undisturbed by time or mankind, an oasis in Paris' concrete jungle. Here was their refuge from not only the city, but also life itself, a place that allowed them both solitude and connection, as though they were two souls sharing one story written across centuries on countless canvases of expressionist paintings rich with emotion, sculptures echoing silent screams etched into marble. Camille's fingers found the cool edge of a stone bench worn smooth by age and use as he sat beside his companion, their hands clasped together just like they had been doing since this night began, a touch that bridged past, present, and future with each silent beat shared between them. The conversation was not one carried on spoken words, but instead through the language of artistry interwoven into every object around Paris' ever-watchful eyes, stories without beginning or end, where time seemed to dissolve under a sky painted by twilight's paletaire canvas only nature could create as day succumbed wholly to night. As they continued their nocturnal promenade, Camille couldn't help but feel that the city itself was speaking directly into his ear. its voice not loud or booming like thunder, but rather a gentle murmur felt deep within one's being, a constant reminder of all life has endured and survived through history. Paris stood resolute in this very moment, holding secrets yet to be discovered by those willing enough to listen with patience as the city's heart continued its relentless beat beneath a blanketed canopy where stars dotted above like diamonds on velvet cloth or celestial body map guiding voyagers seeking solace in dreamy reveries. Camille and his companion found themselves strolling through an open gallery of green, the garden's floor arranged not by human hands, but rather as if curated magically overnight under a blanketed sky, each leaf seemingly pulsating with life, even though their own hearts beat softly against one another. Here was where artistry had no medium beyond nature itself. Sculptures crafted from the very branches of trees and vines that wove through hedge mazes, as if Paris herself were a living artist working tirelessly without rest, her masterpieces forever in bloom with sense to tease senses into awakening. Their journey brought them nearer still. They felt their steps carry them along pathways that seemed drawn by invisible hands towards destinations yet unknown, but somehow deeply familiar, as if this garden was a sanctuary for those who sought refuge from the relentless pulse of Paris or simply wished to lose themselves within whispers carry-on winds untouched or symphony played only for ears attuned with patience. Camille's eyes found beauty in every shadow cast by trees as they stood like sentinels along their path, guardians that bore witness not just histories etched into stone but also the silent stories of love and longing whispered through time or communion, where souls shared laughter with echoes, fading gently amidst foliage, swaying freely to music only heard by hearts willing enough. As they approached a clearing bathed in moonlight, Camille's fingers traced along the contours of an ancient stone bench worn smooth from countless moments shared under Parisian skis or monument, holding tales not just told but felt, with each touch between two intertwined hands resting upon its cool surface. This was where he had first met her. This very spot now held memories and promises yet to be fulfilled, as their laughter melded together beneath twinkling canopy stars, or constellation of shared experiences etched into every detail around them like fingerprints on a mirror's surface. Camille reached out gently towards her, hand resting beside his own. The touch was electric with anticipation, as it seemed to bridge time itself, bringing together hearts that had traversed underneath a sky painted with strokes of night and day's residue. Their silhouettes merged into one as they nestled upon that ancient bench, their shadows dancing together in delicate harmony to nature's lullaby hummed by the leaves. Camille cradled his hand over hers gently. Her fingers were warm against his skin, and cool air whispered promises of seasons yet unseen, but felt deep within them both like a tender caress from destiny itself, as if their souls had always been in conversation through this very space beneath the moon's watchful eye. They shared stories that wove around themselves like tapestries imbued with dreams and aspirations too vast to be contained by mere words alone, tales of old Paris blending seamlessly into their own unfolding narrative, a city's heartbeat echoing through time within the very stones they rested upon, as if guided by an invisible thread spun from shared desires and unspoken truths that transcended mere physical presence, their bond forged in laughter wherein each chuckle seemed to ripple across centuries, touching souls who had long since left the world behind but found solace within this hallowed ground, their fingers entwined like vines reaching towards one another as they traced patterns upon their own palms, or silent dialogue between two hearts seeking understanding in a realm where language often faltered, yet emotions spoke volumes beyond measure. Each touch was an affirmation of affection that transcended the boundaries of time and space. Camille leaned closer to her ear as he listened intently for whispers carried by the breeze, at symphony crafted from dreams only spoken in hushed tones, where memories were shared like cherished relics passed down through generations, with stories told not just around fires but within souls. The moon above them shone as if its light was a beacon guiding lovers lost at sea back to shore, a luminous presence felt more than seen, casting silhouettes upon the world below while offering solace and comfort through an embrace devoid of touch yet rich in meaning. Camille's hand found hers again with renewed tendon. 01. In that moment he knew they were destined to find each other, a pairing ordained by fate itself, as if their lives had been woven together before the stars themselves bore witness upon this very night under Parisian firmament sky, where eternal city lights flickered softly like candles against velvet dusk. Their laughter rang out clear across time and space, of sound that resonated within every crevice of their shared history, each mirthful peal a testament to love's enduring power in the face of life's relentless march forward, as if joy itself could halt mortality with mere chuckles echoing through an ever-changing world. Camille leaned back against the bench that had borne silent witness over lifetimes, her testament to love's endurance and shared memories etched deep into its very foundation. Even as shadows lengthened, their spirits remained buoyant within heartfelt revelations bestowed upon them through tales told beneath Parisian moonlight. As they watched the city bathed in silver glow come alive around them, fair love story unfolding like a delicate petal unfurling to greet each new dawn, revealing hidden depths of connection born from shared experiences within this sacred threshold where past and present converged upon whispered promises yet fulfilled. Camille reached for her hand once more with gentle assurance that their bond transcended the very fabric of reality itself, her union etched into every stone beneath them like indelible marks on a mirror's surface, reflecting not just two faces but an entire universe entwined within each other's embrace. Their souls intertwined as if destiny had spun threads invisible yet palpable, or tapestry of shared love and history woven into the very essence that connected them beyond mere physicality. For in this place, where time seemed to stand still amidst cascading whispers carried on wings untouched, Camille realized they were no longer merely two hearts beating within one chest, but had become a constellation of shared experiences, or celestial dance upon earthly stage painted with Parisian moonlight and enriched by tales yet to unfold. The night deepened around them as their hands remained interlaced, each touch imbuing the bench beneath its weather-worn surface with echoes of laughter shared between souls who had traversed lifetimes through stories whispered in Chapter 10 of their unspoken saga beneath the vaulted skyline that housed countless tales. Camille and her beloved found themselves in a moment suspended between two heartbeats, or silence where words were unnecessary because everything was said through eyes meeting across an ocean of shared glances. The ancient oak around them stood like a guardian to their secret world. Its branches swayed as if bowing low, offering shade and solace beneath the sprawling canopy that rustled with whispers from bygone eras carried on autumn winds. Their souls danced upon this temporal threshold, an ethereal place where time seemed to weave into an intricate lacework of moments, each thread a memory or promise pulsing between them as the night deepened its hue from dusk's tender blush to velvety midnight. It was here that Camille had learned their stories were not just hers and her beloved's, but belonged also to this space, where every leaf falling upon cobblestone streets beneath Parisian moonlight whispered tales of lovers who came before, weaving into the fabric of eternity itself, a place both alienating in its timelessness yet comforting with promises unspoken. As they lay entangled on this bench that had borne witness to countless stories like theirs through ages past and present, Camille felt as though her heartbeat synchronized not only with his, but also with the very rhythm of history enfolded within these sacred stones, a resonance so deep it seemed transcendental. Above them, stars twinkled in silent applause for their shared journey, while a sliver of crescent moon cast its pale glow upon her beloved's face and into Camille's eyes that held the depth of an ocean at night, mysterious waters reflecting endless possibilities. Camille reached out, brushing against his hand with such tenderness it left a warmth in their palms like firelight on skin. Her fingers traced patterns upon calloused wood as if to imprint the significance of this bond into its very grain, or promise that no force but love could sever. In return for Camille's touch, he closed his eyes and sighed with a peaceful surrender only found in moments when one is utterly present within another's soul, where every breath drawn together becomes an act not just of physical nourishment, but spiritual communion, or symphony played upon the strings of their intertwined fingers. The night whispered its secrets through shivering leaves and hushed breezes that carried tales from times when humanity was young. Yet in this union, beneath old Parisian stars, they felt as though eternity had folded into each other's embrace, and infinity encapsulated within a single heartbeat. And with every sigh Camille shared the weight of centuries on her lips and chest. She lived his dreams. He breathed hers, inhaling their essence, becoming one entity moving through life as though they were never apart at all. Their fingers continued to interlace while time around them unraveled into a tapestry that reflected not only the present, but also echoes of lives lived and lost, her narrative woven from threads both golden with joyous memories and darkened by sorrows too profound for mere words. Camille, her hand gently curling over his own like ivy on an ancient wall, felt every pulse within him resonate through her veins. She was awash in the warmth of their shared existence that transcended beyond flesh or fusion, where two spirits had become indistinguishable. And as they slept under Parisian skies heavy with history and a future unwritten, Camille knew there were countless chapters yet to be penned within this chronicle, etched not on paper, but upon the very essence of their being, an odyssey that was far from over. For in this sacred space where whispers carried secrets between heartbeats and time stood still against stone, they had already lived a lifetime together before love even claimed its first breath within them. Every touch beneath moonlit leaves became an unspoken vow to journey through eternity hand in hand, or pilgrimage upon which the stars themselves were spectators. As dawn threatened with amber tendrils that sought to tear open this pocket of time from reality, Camille and her beloved held each other close against encroaching light, their union a beacon for stories yet born within these sacred bounds, their love story unfolding like the first rosebud greeting morning's embrace. And though tomorrow would carry them to lands, tonight was special. Tonight the whispers between their heartbeats felt like a sacred language spoken by lovers entwined not just in body but soul. And as Camille lay nestled next to Vincent, she knew that this night's embrace held promises of tales untold, or tapestry woven from dreams yet to be spun. Her fingers found their way into the crook of his neck with a tenderness born not just out of love but reverence for each other's presence, her touch whispering words that needed no spoken language because they lived in every sigh and tender kiss shared between the mad timeless dance where past and future merged. The room was silent save for the gentle humming of their own breathing rhythms, synchronizing like a duet as Camille closed her eyes, seeking refuge not just from daylight's intrusions, but life's relentless march forward beyond these walls that promised to echo with footsteps soon after. It wasn't long before they were both lost in the reverie of shared dreams, where each night became a chapter yet unwritten and full of wonders, as if time itself had paused for their love story, a narrative etched not on parchment, but upon an ethereal canvas painted with emotions so vivid that reality seemed less real than this blissful illusion they lived. Vincent's hand found its way to Camille's, and he too closed his eyes, letting the sensation of their intertwined fingers guide him back through countless nights like this, our journey where each embrace was a step further into eternity together, with Paris as both witness and keeper. The city lights seemed less distant tonight. They illuminated them just enough to see her smiling face in his hands without ever leaving their haven of warmth amidst the encroaching cold that whispered secrets through night airs not yet chilled by frosts. Touch their union a beacon, an eternal flame casting shadows where stories began and ended with love. They knew this moment was fleeting as morning's first blush threatened to claim their world from the realm of dreams. Still they held each other close against its encroaching light, or promise that though tomorrow would see them tread new paths, beneath Parisian skies and in hearts where love resided timelessly. As sleep claimed her weary mind, Camille whispered a vow to their shared voyage through existence. No matter the chapters yet unwritten or lands they might explore beyond these walls, their story would forever be bound by an indomitable spirit that defied even time itself. And in this sacred space where whispers carried secrets between heartbeats while daylight stood still against stone, their love was a testament to the endless possibilities of life's beautiful odyssey. And as dawn's tendrils crept through curtained windows with amber fingers that sought not just light, but also to rouse them from this nightly sanctum, their bond would remain steadfast and unwavering, their love story continuing long after the city awoke. For in each other's arms they found an anchor amidst life's tempests. Together they had already lived lifetimes within moments that transcended time itself, a journey not of distance but closeness, where every touch beneath moonlit leaves was pledged to walk hand in hand through eternity. As the first light touched her skin, Camille's heart swelled with gratitude for this love story yet unfolding like a delicate rosebud greeting morning's embrace, or testament that though tomorrow carried them toward lands unseen and tales undreamt of by those who had written history before their time came to pass. But within the sacred space, where whispers spoke secrets between heartbeats, they knew no matter what chapters lay ahead or shadows loomed large on horizons yet, their love story was a beacon for stories yet born, and would remain an eternal flame in hearts that beat with Parisian rhythms. As Dorn's embrace as they rose from bed together into a morning kiss goodbye, there was a lingering sense in Camille's heart. She felt as though today would unveil more than just the day's blueprint for them, but also reveal deeper layers of their shared existence and perhaps even alter its course. They stood hand in hand at her doorway before stepping into the city that never sleeps, ready to explore new horizons, with eyes wide open yet filled with an unspoken understanding that together they could face whatever lay ahead as one entity in love's grand tapestry. Amidst Paris, cobbled lanes and shadowed alleyways where stories of passion had danced for centuries, Camille sensed the weight of history pressing against her shoulders like an ancient mantle that whispered tales not just from pages long turned to dust, but also echoing within their own entwined destinies. The city itself seemed alive with potential, or living entity pulsing in time with their beating hearts and shared breaths, weaving through the fabric of its streets, as if urging them forward into realms uncharted yet somehow already known intimately to every soul that had called Paris home before her own arrival on this earth. Their morning stroll took them past centuries-old buildings where time seemed to stand still, or mistake of memories in stone and brick, each structure a testament to the enduring power of love transcending epochs within their city's embrace. Camille felt as though she was walking through history itself, her fingertips tracing over weathered facades that had witnessed generations come into being under Parisian skies, while holding hands with one whose touch could make the very air shimmer with anticipation for what lay ahead on their journey, towed for a journey not just of discovery, but also rediscovery. At Place des Vosges, where statues stood sentinel and fountains gurgled like old friends sharing secrets in hushed tones beneath canopies stretched out by generations past to protect the lovers that had come before them from time's relentless marcher, Camille paused with Pierre. The square, a crucible of history where passion and tragedy were etched into every corner like an open book penned in love's indelible script. They shared silent communion here amid the echoes of untold stories that seemed to resonate within their own bond, their connection so intricately woven with threads borrowed from those who had walked these paths before. In this sacred space, where whispers spoke secrets between heartbeats, Pierre and Camille knew no matter what chapters lay ahead or shadows loomed large on horizons, yet he were bound by an unbreakable thread of love that transcended time itself, a beacon guiding them through Paris' labyrinthine streets toward tomorrow's promise. As they continued their journey together, each step seemed to carry the weight and wisdom of centuries past, while also ushering in possibilities as yet unknown, a continuum where yesterday intertwined with today so seamlessly that it blurred into a singular narrative threaded through eternity itself. For Pierre's touch upon Camille's arm was not just an anchor amidst life's tempests, but also the warmth of home within her very soul. Their adventure led them along boulevards lined with trees that seemed to lean ever so slightly closer, as if yearning to join in their shared embrace, an arboreal testament to love's enduring presence amidst Paris' storied landscape, where the echoes of footsteps from ages past and those yet unborn reverberated through time like a constant hum beneath city lights. They paused now on these ancient paths that had been trodden by countless lovers before them, their breath visible in cold mists as they embraced under moonlit leaves or pledged to walk hand in hand through eternity's doorway and beyond the confines of reality, as they ventured deeper into Paris' embrace under an opalescent sky that promised both mystery and warmth in equal measure. Pierre and Camille found themselves standing before a door carved with intricate swirls of vines intertwined around ancient columns. It was as if the very essence of love had been sculpted by skilled hands long ago. The air seemed to hum softly a resonant melody that spoke in hushed tones about forgotten times and unwritten futures, enveloping them both with a comfort known only to those who have danced beneath starlit canopies before, the tranquil embrace of anticipation for what lay ahead. The door creaked open without their touch. It was as though they were meant not just to enter, but already had been granted passage, guided by an invisible thread spun from shared memories and dreams yet unspoken, a path that wound through the city's heart with purposeful intent. Stepping inside revealed a room where time appeared static in its fluidity. Mirrored walls reflected endless possibilities, while portraits, officially empty frames, held stories of laughter, tears, kisses shared, and tender whispers lost to silence their sanctum that felt as though it had been waiting just for them. An old clock ticked steadily in the corner, marking moments with a rhythm soothing yet profound. Its hands moved deliberately, but never seemed hurriedly forward or backward. In time's embrace within these walls, Pierre and Camille discovered an arsenal of forgotten relics, faded photographs depicting smiles frozen in sepia tones that whispered tales from decades prior, letters bound with ribbons once crimson now mellow to the softest pinks or testament to love's resilience through seasons and years. They lingered before each artifact, allowing themselves a moment of reverie as memories took shape within their minds like phantoms dancing in candlelight. They were witnesses not just to history, but its custodians, their shared experiences in echo that might ripple into eternity. Camille's fingers traced the edges of her own reflection, feeling simultaneously a stranger and intimately known within these walls where time dared not trespass without invitation from those who held it sacred in their union. Pierre reached out gently. His touch was an anchor that seemed to draw all sorrows into its depths, so warmth, so tangible beneath Camille's fingertips, as if the very essence of home had been encapsulated within them. It felt like standing at crossroads between two eras where every cobblestone whispered stories that only they could hear. Each stone was an ancestor's footstep and a descendant's echo, communion with the past mingling seamlessly into their present journey of togetherness. Their eyes met across this threshold, where time wove itself around them like ribbons through hair, binding themselves together in an unbroken knot that no tempest could rend asunder, a testament to the strength found within love's tender embrace and how it fortified hearts against life's relentless storms. Together they stepped forward. Their footfalls upon Parisian cobblestone were like a heartbeat, marking passage with every sound that resonated through empty streets as night draped its velvet curtain over the city, or silent witness to countless tales of partings and reunions woven into each other's souls. They found themselves outside once more, but this time they did not depart hastily, for Paris had become their sanctuary, where every alleyway held a secret waiting quietly in anticipation, as if aware that Pierre and Camille were now its quiet guardians of heartbeats, through the ages its memory eternally encapsulated within them. They paused at this juncture again, yet something was different, for they felt an energy pulsating from beneath their feet like a living thing ready to propel forward into tomorrow's embrace while cherishing yesterday's tender kisses, withheld in reverence, a promise that love is not just the past nor solely future, but ever present within each heartbeat. As they walked hand in hand, their steps led them down boulevards lined by trees whose branches swayed gently like supplicants of wind to join them. Paris had opened its arms wider than before, a verdant companion that rustled softly against the night's chill while standing as a sentinel for memories long held dear. They passed through iron gates where lovers once etched their initial. The night seemed to wrap them in a tender embrace as they continued their journey through Paris under starlight and moonbeams that kissed rooftops with silver grace. It was on such an evening when Pierre felt something stir within him, a yearning for the past, yet intertwined deeply with hopeful strands of future dreams he held dearly in his heart's tapestry. Pierre and Camille had become unexpected custodians to a city that remembered their names, whispered by wind-blown leaves, on autumnal evenings when they were young lovers, wandering hand in hand through the very same boulevards now glimmering with an ethereal light. The cobblestone streets hummed beneath them, resonating the timeless melody of love that transcended their own fleeting existence, a symphony to which only they bore witness as silent sentinels of heartbeats through the ages. As Pierre and Camille meandered past ancient monuments where history's gaze met with modernity, he paused before a grandiose statue of Liberty that seemed almost alive in her perpetual pose, or testament to freedom standing guardian over their shared moments etched into its marble soul. He took the time to trace his fingers along chiseled lines and curves where they once traced Camille's cheek, feeling a familiar warmth against cold stone, as if Paris itself were reminding them of promises made beneath her gaze decades ago, promise that even love lost was never truly forgotten. Camille laughed softly at Pierre's reverie and joined him in touching the face before they continued onward, where every café doorway held echoes of laughter from bygone days, when their fingers found solace interlocked as they sipped espresso under steamy chandeliers. With each step down Rue de Rivolet's enduring facades, they felt themselves drawn to an enchanting night market that came alive with the glow of lantern-lit stalls and a kaleidoscope of colors, from fabrics fluttered like butterfly wings in their wake, or carnival born after dusk, where Paris herself seemed less guardian and more companion, embracing them warmly. Their journey took an unexpected turn as they followed the Seine's sinuous path that curled beneath bridges heavy with stories of old to new beginnings. Their reflection danced in its waters while boats glided by like silent spectators offering passage through time itself, a reminder that life, much like waterways, was never meant for stillness. They found themselves at the Jardin des Tuileries, where whispers carried on breezes wove tales of empires fallen and risen with every rustle in foliage, leaves, as old soldiers rested beneath shadows cast by time-worn statuettes, their gazes following Pierre and Camille's own, imprinting a shared history that was their inheritance. As the night deepened, they encountered artworks of unimaginable beauty ensconced within museum walls where light captured on canvas seemed to pulsate with life. Every brushstroke held breath, waiting for eyes like Pierre and Camille to see themselves reflected in each masterpiece, as if Paris herself had painted them a part of her soul. They paused before one, contemplating the delicate dance between hues that told stories without words, yet spoke volumes to souls attuned enough. It was there they felt most at home, amongst echoes and whispers, where their footsteps were silent, but laden with significance upon ancient floors, or testament of time in which Pierre could imagine himself standing alone, eternally present within a single frame. Thr sands away from the city's heartbeat lay Montmartre's shadowed steps leading to Sacré-Cœur Basilica, where candles flickered like stars, fallen upon earth, or sanctuary of tranquillity, in which Pierre and Camille found reprieve amidst a sea of soft murmurs that enveloped them. They lingered at the base, watching as night unfurled its darkened wings across rooftops. Even here, within the city's embrace, they felt small beneath an expanse where sky stretched like velvet, curtain over their shared life, a reminder of how vast love could feel yet hold firmly to each other. Their silent communion was interrupted by a serendine call that led them onward through the alleys less traveled, away from city lights, and toward hidden nooks where Paris whispered secrets only true lovers might know, a rendezvous with destiny. As they approached an old bookshop tucked behind forgotten doors painted in chapter 15 of their Parisian journey, Pierre and Camille found themselves enveloped in a cocoon woven from golden threads as dusk painted its final strokes across the city skyline before retreating into night's embrace. The day had been an odyssey through Montmartre's shadowy alleys, where ancient stones bore witness to countless whispered promises and stolen kisses, but tonight they sought solace in a different kind of sanctuarium that promised the quietude only Paris at twilight could offer. The Sacré-Cœur Basilica stood as their silent sentinel, while candlelight danced on its humble altar like fireflies caught within an amber jar, casting a warm glow upon Pierre's and Camille's faces as they watched the world from atop Montmartre. Above them stretched the heavens themselves. It was not just Paris that had been captured in time, but also their lover, microcosm of eternity under an expanse so vast yet intimately familiar, like two lovers within a shared dream. As they stood there together, Pierre felt as if he and Camille were suspended between the past's sepia-toned memories and tomorrow's unwritten chapters, a delicate balance that lent weight to their every heartbeat without uttering a single word. Each of them carried an invisible thread inextricably linked with another, weaving through time like threads on a loom. Pierre could almost hear the soft humming melody created by this connection as they stood there towed for a symphony that only those who truly love each other might sense and appreciate. Their shared silence was not merely an absence of sound, but rather a canvas upon which their thoughts painted strokes in shades more vivid than any language could muster, echoing the dance between hues they had witnessed earlier, a silent storytelling that needed no words to be felt deep within. Pierre's hand found its way into Camille's, and for an instant he wondered if their fingers might become brushes dipped in love itself as much as paint, each touch a colorful addition on the vast tapestry of shared experiences they had woven over time, towed for a living mosaic that grew more intricate with every heartbeat. As night wrapped its arms around Paris like an old friend too familiar to leave alone for long, Pierre and Camille found themselves drawn towards quieter nooks where the city's secrets whispered only amongst true lovers. They ventured down lesser-known lanes that curled through alleys beneath cobblestone streets, or place of Parisian whispers they knew by heart yet always discovered anew, as if each visit brought them closer to understanding their shared soul's melody and rhythm better than before. A a sacred communion between two kindred spirits seeking refuge from the world's chaos within its own hidden sanctuaries. It was here in this hushed cathedral of Parisian whispers that they stumbled upon an old bookshop, nestled behind doors painted with stories, untold and secrets sealed away by time itself, a place where dust motes danced like constellations within the air as if each particle were both starlight trapped in amber and knowledge waiting to be released. The heir's eyes traced across spines that held worlds between their covers, realms of adventure longing for life once more, scent of aged paper mingling with memories evoked by the touch, a sensory experience too poignant not even love could forget if forgotten in time. Their shared gaze lingered upon volumes that spoke directly to Pierre's heart, each title whispering tales, long forgotten but never truly lost, or literary tapestry as rich and complex as their own lives together, a testament to the power of words when paired with love's embrace. He could almost hear Camille behind him in hushed wonderment at this treasure trove, her spirit resonating within every book that felt like an extension of themselves, her collection where each story ended and another began until all were one, a library without end where time itself bowed to the narrative's eternal flow. The heir reached out gently for a volume with spine as worn as his own heart, fingers brushing across embossed titles that seemed like ancient runes promising forgotten knowledge and secrets held within each word or touch so tender it was almost sacred in its reverence, the sensation of shared discovery enveloping them both. Camille's hand joined his next to the book as if drawn together by invisible threads, her fingers tracing patterns on cover. Pierre and Camille stood side by side within the labyrinthine shelves of an immense library that seemed to stretch into infinity, each book a world unto itself, a refuge from reality where time held its breath in anticipation of their literary exploration. The air was thick with dust motes dancing like tiny fairies caught up in rays of golden light filtering through stained glass windows, casting prismatic colors onto the ancient wooden floor, painting patterns that seemed to guide them deeper into this place where knowledge and history were preserved as faithfully as a couple's love. Tonight was special. It wasn't just about being together in their sanctuary of stores. It felt like they had arrived at an even more personal chapter within the grand narrative that bound Pierre to Camille, one where each shared glance and touch held deeper meaning than mere affection for a fellow soul. The heir's gaze swept over volumes with titles embossed in gold leaf. He could still remember their first meeting when they had discovered this library during his research on Victorian-era poets, or time of passion, intellect, and an enduring influence that mirrored Pierre himself, a scholarly heart wrapped around the soulful elegance Camille possessed. The scent from each book was different yet comforting. It carried with them decades upon decades in which countless readers had sought solace within these pages, an olfactory tapestry as rich and complex as their shared history. Camille's hand reached out beside his, a gentle motion that seemed to say more than words could convey between two kindred spirits discovering one another through the narratives they touched upon together in this vast literary universe. She traced her fingers over leather-bound tomes with care and reverence, as if each were sacred relics from days long past, their text whispering secrets of love lost and found across centuries, that she hoped to learn more about them for Pierre's sake, but also for the fulfillment it gave her own heart. It was a dance they had performed countless times before. Yet with each visit here under this grand dome, their bond seemed ever stronger, as if time within these walls bent in reverence of their connection. Together and alone among friends made from words on page or duet, where every phrase became an echo that bounced off the domed ceiling like a heartbeat synchronized with each other's breathing patterns, resonating through them both as though they were eternally intertwined within this sanctuary. The heir smiled softly when he remembered how she had first fallen for him, how her eyes had sparkled upon finding the title of Byron's works hidden away on a forgotten shelf. And now, in return, it was his turn to watch with joy as Camille's fingers curved around each volume like an artist selecting their next muse. The way she would lose herself into narratives about star-crossed lovers or gallant knights seeking honor amidst despair seemed a reflection of the very essence that flowed within her, a soul yearning for tales where love triumphs, even if it is not destined to be their own journey's end. As they moved through rows upon rows laden with knowledge and whispers from ages past, Pierre picked up an ornate copy of Dante's Divine Comedy, its spine as worn as the love he had for Camille. It was a symbol that here in this place where time stood still within its walls. His fingers brushed against hers again while both reached to lift a volume together, and their hands intertwined like those of two people who could not imagine life apart, or gesture too tenderly familiar between them, as if they had performed the same ritual countless times before under different roofs with varied surroundings, but always within this timeless refuge. Camille's eyes closed momentarily, her breath slowing to a whisper that trailed off into silence. Pierre felt like he could hear it in his own lungs as they shared their reverence for the past encapsulated here, their heartbeats synced with each turn of page and unspoken promises. It was more than just discovering lost stories within these walls, but rediscovery itself, themselves finding new depths to love when held in another's arms across a sea of time that seemed as endless yet comfortingly finite here among the books. He reached out for her hand again with an effortless tenderness born from shared experiences and silent understandings, or connection between two souls who found solace within each other's company amidst narratives echoing through this vast collection of human thought, emotion, dreams, fears. Pierre knew that in the quietude among these sentinels Pierre and Camille found themselves once again in this sacred enclave of knowledge, or library, where time seemed to fold upon itself, allowing them a rare opportunity for introspection amidst its hallowed shelves lined with tales both ancient and modern. Each book was an echo from the past or future they dreamt about but never saw manifesting before their very eyes. Each page turned in silence told stories of other lives, lived across eras, that seemed as distant yet intimately connected to them within these walls. As Dorn's light crept through a stained glass window, painting hues like soft pinks and oranges over the spines on shelves, Pierre gently closed an old leather volume of poetry he had been rereading with Camille by his side, a shared experience that felt as natural to them both as breathing. The sun's rays danced upon their faces. In this moment they were but two souls exploring the depths and mysteries held within printed words, while outside worldly noises faded into a distant hum against these quiet reflections of time encased here among tomes that whispered secrets. Camille's fingers trailed over Pierre's cheek, their skin warm under her touch as she sighed softly, or sound like the rustling leaves in an autumnal breeze through forgotten forests, now residing only within these pages of verse and prose. The library was not just a place where they sought solace from life's relentless pace, but here it became their sanctuary. Each discovery about themselves intertwined with the knowledge contained in books, as if bound by an invisible thread woven through time itself, or sentiment Pierre felt deeply nestled within his heart. Their shared journey was punctuated not just by words on paper or voices carried across speakers, but also moments of profound connection that transcended mere conversation between two people entwined in love's tender grasp amidst the scent of aged parchment and wood polish lingering within these walls. Pierre glanced at Camille with eyes brimming with unshed tears as he felt her fingers gently press against his hand, a reminder that here they were not just two individuals sharing life's path, but embarking upon an adventure together amidst tales of passion and love penned by poets who knew the depths to which human hearts could reach. With each page turned in this joint exploration through literary worlds, Pierre felt as though they were uncovering layers within themselves, their shared experiences creating a tapestry rich with meaning that only grew more intricate and beautiful as it unfolded before their eyes like the petals of an eternal bloom. Their hands met again while reaching for another volume together. This time Pierre's fingers danced along Camille's armor-tender caress amidst these hallowed walls, where every touch was a note in an unspoken symphony that only they could hear resonating between their hearts beating as one. Pierre knew without doubt he had found his counterpart for life itself within this sanctuary of words and tales, feeling each story unfold before him like petals opening to reveal its heart or sentiment, echoed by the soft chuckle that escaped Camille's lips when she heard a line from an old play they both adored. The library had become their world. Here within these walls were not just stories of romance, but also reflections on human nature and emotion, shared understanding between Pierre and Camille deepening as though each word was spoken in unison with the silent whispers that seemed to fill this place where history itself breathed through every book lining its shelves. As they found themselves drawn back together within these sacred confines, time appeared irrelevant. Their spirits were transported into narratives of all kinds, some real and some conjured from imagination's boundless creativity that resided only here among the written word. Pierre felt his heart race with anticipation as he reached for a volume on far-off lands where adventurers roamed. Yet another shared passion between him and Camille, Their souls were free to wander amidst tales of daring exploits alongside quiet stories told in hushed voices across time, their experiences mirrored within the lives penned by others who had once been like them but now only existed as echoes on paper. The library was not merely a place for Pierre and Camille to find respite from their external worlds. It became an anchor point in which they discovered new depths of understanding, empathy, and unwavering support that bound them together even more tightly within each other's arms, or sanctuary where the whispers among pages grew into a chorus resonating. Pierre and Camille stood together in front of an ancient wooden door that creaked open to reveal a labyrinthine library, one so vast it seemed like another world within their own, a haven where time folded upon itself with tales as numerous as the stars above them on this quiet night. Their journey through books had always been more than mere escapism. Here, in these hallowed hallways, they found solace and strength, mirrored by stories long past but still whispering to lives anew, binding their souls together like threads interwoven with tales of love lost and heroic quests just as fervently sought. The library's musty scent was a familiar comfort that embraced them both, warm touch against skin in the cold night air, reminding Pierre why he had ventured here first, to this place where echoes from history resonated through hushed voices and silent communion with countless souls. Camille's fingers traced along leather spines as they passed her own reflection on a brass-bound tome nestled snugly between others of equal antiquity. The book was rumored to hold secrets penned by lovers separated not just in time, but across worlds. As Pierre and Camille delved deeper into this treasury of human experience, through words etched on paper, they felt their shared connection intensify, a bond that went beyond mere companionship to something ethereal, like the intertwined roots of an ancient forest tree spreading unseen beneath the soil. Each book became a vessel for understanding and empathy. Every flip of the page was another heartbeat in their shared journey through tales spun from dreams, fears, loves lost to time, but never forgotten within these walls, where reality blurred into fiction with each whispered word. Pierre's hand paused on a map of an uncharted island floating amidst sea-forgotten legends. The illustrations pulsated as if alive before his eyes, and Camille couldn't tear her gaze away from it either. It seemed to call out with hidden promises for those brave enough. Together they traced its pathways that led through verdant jungles, where mythic creatures might dwell, or into the depths of hauntingly beautiful caves rumored to hold artifacts of forgotten civilizations, each turn a step closer toward understanding their own histories and futures intertwined like vines. Camille's laughter rang clear as she recounted an adventure from one such book or tale where pirates searched for lost treasure on this same island, while Pierre's heart raced with the thrill of being a part of it, even if only in spirit. His soul ached to sail these very seas and tread upon sands that had felt nothing but silence since days when history was still wet from its own creation. As they journeyed further into this literary world, where every nook bore stories untold yet deeply personal, a refuge for the weary heart seeking kindred spirits whose whispers linger in forgotten places of their minds and memories alike, Pierre found himself lost within a narrative about an ancient city that thrived on knowledge alone. Here he stood alongside scholars who had once walked its streets, sharing ideas as freely as water flows from the spring, a reminder to him both how history repeats in tales of humanity and yet is ever-changing like seasons themselves upon which these stories were based. Pierre's own story was one not just written on paper, but lived within his heart, for every word read aloud between them felt as if it belonged or shared language only they understood, a melody that played in harmony whenever their hands reached across the tabletop to trace lines of text together or pause at illustrations depicting scenes neither had seen before. In this library where time stood still and stories breathed life into reality, Pierre found solace knowing his love for Camille was not just felt, but acknowledged through every word exchanged, each glance shared between their entwined fingers, as they journeyed hand in hand across the landscape of imagination painted by ink on parchment. Their evening's adventure had taken them from tales that spoke to souls seeking understanding and belonging within themselves. Now, with eyes closed against a symphony composed solely for their ears, Pierre felt Camille's warmth beside him, her comforting presence like the hearth in winter nights. As they embraced together beneath an image of twilight skies depicting countless stars that seemed to dance before them as if celebrating this very moment, a chorus rose within their shared heartbeat, its rhythm not heard but felt or mellow as Pierre and Camille nestled into their shared embrace beneath the painted twilight skies of an endless horizon, a tender breeze wafted through the libraries, grand windows her silent whisper carrying with it tales untold from lands afar. The sky above seemed to stretch on forever as stars began to dot its expanse in earnest, each one shimmering like diamonds scattered across black velvet cloth by a celestial hand of fate that was both generous and watchful over the couple's secret rendezvous within these hallowed walls adorned with history. Pierre traced a constellation back to its inception, his fingertips brushing against lines not unlike those he had drawn together on paper when they first discovered each other, a shared language that only their hearts could fully comprehend while the world lay asleep outside these insulated walls where time danced at their behest. Camille's breath became a soft rhythm beside his own, two heartbeats resonating in perfect harmony with every silent exchange of love and understanding beneath this very canopy that seemed to hold them within its protective gaze, a gentle reminder from the universe itself that they were meant to find solace here. Their fingers intertwined once more as if led by an invisible thread woven through their souls, binding Pierre's heart with Camille's essence in a silent sonnet of affection and yearning. For these two had found not just each other amidst the endless rows of stories, but also within themselves a shared passion that transcended mere words on paper to become something tangible. And as their fingers caressed illustrations drawn by hands long past, Pierre felt a deep gratitude toward this sanctuary where he and Camille could retreat from reality's relentless march forward, for in the depth of nightfall within these ancient walls filled with whispers of other times, they had found each other. Within their shared warmth lay an unspoken promise to treasure every moment as if it were a precious gem or pledge made between two hearts that beat together like one under starlit skies, where stories breathed life into reality and time stood still for those who dared dream within its embrace. As the last of daylight surrendered, relinquishing command to night's dominion over their world outside these library doors, Pierre wrapped his arms around Camille's shoulders, her gesture that spoke volumes in a language not articulated but felt deep down into her heart, for each touch was imbued with the weight of shared glances and promises made under silent stars. Camille's eyes met Pierre's, revealing nothing yet conveying everything about their bond or connection as natural to them both as breathing itself within these walls where love could unfurl its wings without fear or judgment from beyond the library's stained glass windows that framed tales of old and new. And so they lay entwined, a living tapestry woven with threads invisible yet unbreakable, or mosaic, crafted not just in words, but within shared moments where every touch spoke volumes to two souls who had come together under the watchful eyes of history itself. For these were stories that transcended time and space. Within their embrace, Pierre felt an ancient magic pulsing through his veins, or force as old as tales yet unwritten about love's power over human hearts across generations, long forgotten by those who walk the earth today, but remembered in every stroke of a quill on parchment that pulsed with life beyond its own. As they surrendered to one another, Pierre realized their journey together was not just through physical realms or written words. It had always been within these stories where souls met and found solace from the trials outside this sacred haven, for every story told under candlelight echoes with truths known only by those who seek connection in its flickering glow. Their shared heartbeat was a lullaby to which neither needed sleep or harmony, that promised comfort and companionship through nights ahead, where tales yet untold awaited them, ready at any moment's notice within these walls of dreaming. For in the world beyond their library door lay endless possibilities wrapped up like secrets waiting beneath layers of dust-cloaked pages. Camille's gentle sigh broke through Pierre's thoughts as she nestled further into his arms, a sound that spoke to him not just with silence, but also a depth unmatched by any spoken word. For it was in these quiet moments together where their love transcended the boundaries of reality, becoming something ethereal and otherworldly as twilight embraced their beloved library with a soothing caress of dusk's indigo. Pierre and Camille found themselves nestled in each other's arms, once more under its protective shadows, or haven where time had no dominion over the souls it cradled. The ancient tones around them whispered secrets to those who dare listen, tales of love that transcended empires, sorrow and triumph woven into threads so fine they could only be seen in moonlight's tender glow or felt deep within one's heartbeat against another's skin. Pierre traced the ridges on Camille's palm with his thumb as she drifted closer to him, her breath a warm zephyr that mingled seamlessly with the cool night air of their sanctuary, a place where reality and myth entwined in an eternal dance. In this sacred space between them, they discovered stories not just within pages, but echoed from each other's essence, tales as old as time itself unfurling like a map to hidden treasures buried deep beneath layers of dust-cloaked memories waiting patiently for their return. Their shared heartbeat became the melody that lulled them into serene oblivion, where dreamscapes painted with hues more vibrant than any sunset could conjure lay just beyond reach on paper wings and ink-drenched parchment alike. Each tale spun by candlelight held truths only known to those who sought solace within its flickering embrace, a refuge where the love between Pierre and Camille mirrored legends of old, their spirits entwined across centuries, through whispered words from generations past that echoed with resonance in every stroke upon a blank page. Pierre leaned closer as he felt her heartbeat synchronized to his own, an unspoken promise woven into the very fabric of time itself, promising an everlasting bond between these star-crossed lovers whose souls had danced together through history's tapestry since tales were first told under candlelight. With every shared secret and heartfelt confession, they painted their love upon this ethereal canvas, where reality melted away like wax from a burnt-out flame, a realm transcending the limitations of earthly existence, to find sanctuary in stories that had cradled countless hearts before them. They reveled within these walls, their love an unwavering beacon illuminating paths traversed by souls long departed yet ever present, through echoes carried on winds and waves of time, or timeless connection forged in the crucible of shared stories, where every whisper held power to mend wounds inflicted upon weary spirits seeking refuge from life's relentless tempests. As Pierre lovingly brushed a strand of chestnut hair behind Camille's ear, it was as if he unveiled treasures hidden within the pages that surrounded the man love so profound and pure its tendrils had reached across realms to touch eternity itself with gentle fingers. Together they embarked on journeys penned by hands whose blood now coursed through their veins, where every narrative was a key unlocking doors leading into the unknown territories of imagination and desire, a world beyond comprehension, but ever present within them as Pierre cradled Camille's delicate neck against his own. Therein lay an infinite expanse awaiting exploration through stories whispered beneath starlight, where every tale spun was a step deeper into the heart's most cherished sanctuaries, a realm beyond mere existence that existed only within their shared consciousness and nurtured by tales of love eternally told. For in this sacred haven between them lay not just an escape from reality, but rather Pierre discovered himself as much a character entwined with Camille's essence as any protagonist born under the sun's daily reignite tale written upon their intertwined souls, where every heartbeat was imbued with meaning beyond mortal comprehension. As he traced her cheek, his touch ignited sparks that transcended mere flesh to weave themselves into constellations within Camille's eyes, a celestial dance of love and light whose only audience were the ancient tones yearning for their return, silent witnesses attuned solely with Pierre's heartbeat resonating in harmony against her own. Their shared embrace was an affirmation that within these walls, where time held no dominion, they had become both characters and creators of a love story too prof. As Pierre traced her delicate cheek with tender fingertips that seemed to carry centuries of affection within their touch, he whispered a tale into Camille's ear, a simple yet enchanting narrative about an ancient oak in the heart of verdure forest. This tree had stood tall for ages and was said to possess wisdom far beyond any human's understanding. It communicated through rustling leaves that told stories from times immemorial, imparted secrets only heard by those who truly listened with their hearts. Pierre's voice became a soft lullaby as Camille leaned closer, her breath mixing with his own in the cool night air of their secluded haven. The oak stood silent yet ever watchful, its presence felt but unseen, or guardian of legends passed down through whispering breezes and murmuring brooks that meandered around it like faithful companions on a journey across time. As Pierre's story unfolded, he spoke softly about the oak's knotted roots reaching deep into fertile earth, roots intertwined with threads of destiny itself. Each twist and bend in its trunk recorded pivotal moments that altered history forevermore. These were stories not just told, but lived through every fiber of nature, where the oak's mighty branches had offered shelter to lovers entangled by fate's own hand underneath their canopy during stormy nights filled with star-crossed dreams and tender vows exchanged in hopeful whispers. With each word Pierre shared about this mythical tree, Camille felt as though she too was walking alongside it through thickets of time, where the past melded seamlessly into their present embrace under its protective shade. She clung to his every syllable with such ardor that her own heartbeat began sinking rhythmically against his, and together they danced through epochs, as Pierre's hands wove tales around them both, a tapestry of love spun from the very essence of their intertwined souls. Their shared embrace became an affirmation that within these walls, where time held no dominion over them, they had become characters not just in each other's stories, but as architects of a narrative too profound for mere words or tale penned upon the canvas of their intertwined fates. The ancient tomes on dusty shelves seemed to whisper back approval, with every heartbeat echoing against Camille's skin, and Pierre felt his touch ignite sparks that transcended flesh into constellations within her eyes, a celestial dance of love and light, whose only audience were the silent tomes attuned solely with their harmonious resonance. As Dorn's first blush crept upon them, Pierre's voice grew softer still as he spun tales that wove through dreamscapes wherein they might explore worlds birthed from nothing but desire and the delicate threads of an unspoken promissory reality crafted by their own yearnings for a sanctuary beyond comprehension. Camille's mind drifted amongst these fantastical realms, her imagination alight with visions that sparkled brighter than any star in Pierre's eyes as he cradled her neck tenderly against his heartbeat, a symphony of love orchestrated between the two souls forevermore. And so they journeyed forth into this world, where every tale spun was a step deeper within their shared sanctuaries, each story etching itself upon them more profoundly with every word spoken in hushed reverence for what lay just beyond perception, a realm not of existence, but feeling and being. Their connection transcended the mere physical as they delved into narratives where love was a language that flowed from their intertwined essences, whispering promises too sacred to be voiced aloud yet felt with every fibre of being amidst shared silhouettes against twilight's embrace. For Pierre and Camille, this place, between the worlds suspended in the tenderness of a gaze held steadfastly across time-bound flesh, was an eternal spring from which they drank deeply with every touch that transcended mere physicality. It was where their spirits soared on wings fashioned by untold stories and whispered dreams. Their love story had become legend, penned not in ink but woven into the very essence of being, a narrative too magnificent for mortal comprehension yet intimately known to them alone as they surrendered themselves wholly unto each other's presence beneath a sky that bore witness to their own. Pierre and Camille lay beneath a canopy of stars that twinkled like distant lighthouses, guiding them through nights filled with shared silence, their souls conversing in languages older than words, yet new as every glance they exchanged held volumes, unspoken dance eternalized within the tender sanctuary between them. The journey had taken them to myriad places where reality intertwined delicately with dreamscapes, Parisian nights bathed in golden hues that spilled from their shared sunset memories, and quiet afternoons beneath cherry blossoms whispering of the ephemeral nature of love. It was on a dusky twilight when they encountered an ancient oak tree standing sentinel at the edge where land met water. Their touches upon its gnarled roots felt like returning home, back to their first meeting years ago in this very spot as children playing underneath with hopes untainted by time. Pierre had once confided his dreams of adventure beneath such trees when they were young hearts beating fervently for the world's wonders, and Camille would listen intently, her eyes reflecting a shared vision that promised no bounds to their love or imaginations. Their narratives often led them back here, as if drawn by an invisible thread stitched into their very essence, their tapestry of experiences, where every encounter between the two wove deeper connections within this realm, each touch a sentence in a story told through feelings that required no translation to understand one another. The stories were not just tales, but shared truths sculpted from moments when laughter and tears had mingled freely amongst them, soft murmurs of their first kiss carried by the wind like poetry scribed into being, etching permanence on a canvas ever shifting with each sunset they witnessed side by side. As months became seasons and this shared existence between Parisian boulevards and cobbled lanes where time seemed to pause at their touch, Pierre once unearthed an old journal within the depths of his late grandmother's attic, leather-bound relic that spoke volumes from its faded pages. Intrigued by tales penned with ink now blurred beyond recognition and words whispering secrets lost to history, he brought it home as a memento for Camille, who delved into the chronicles of love letters exchanged between soldiers during tumultuous times, of reflection mirroring their own hearts that beat not just together but were one. Pierre would trace over an illustration within this journal while they nestled against each other, his fingers tracing her contours as he murmured words from the past meant for a heart in another time and place, yet resonating with them both their timeless echo of love's enduring voice throughout history. Camille's response was always tender, guiding Pierre further through memories that shimmered like reflections upon water. Together they would wander these narratives where each touch became a wordless sentence and every glance an unspoken verse, a symphony composed of their intertwined spirits in harmony. One evening, as the moon hung low, casting silver threads across Parisian streets now quiet with night's embrace, Pierre felt Camille's warmth against his skin like a silent song hummed by fireflies. It was an affirmation that no distance could sever their bond, for they had become vessels of each other's essence, their fusion where neither soul existed independently but as one whole entity. In this twilight hour, every heartbeat synced with the rhythm of eternal affection, while Paris slept unknowingly beneath them and time continued its inexorable march forward, oblivious to their sanctuary within each other's presence. Their love story was a living legend that pulsed not just through veins but coursed into every cellar, legacy written upon the canvas of existence, immortalized by devotion and surrendering themselves wholly unto one another's embrace beneath skies blessed with constellations born from their shared dreams. In this world, where they had become each other's anchor in a sea without end, Pierre held Camille close as the night sky unfurled its tapestry above the Mac Testament to love that transcended time and echoed through eternity within every whisper of wind between their intertwined fingers. For years they had lived this narrative where reality was but a shadow, always outshone by an inner light born from the depths of mutual understanding without need for words and essence-to-essence communion that painted strokes upon each other's soul with silent conversations held in jail as twilight deepened into a velvety night blanketed by stars that seemed to listen intently. Pierre and Camille found themselves enveloped in an atmosphere of quietude so profound it felt as though they were suspended within their own private cosmos or world, where the boundaries between them blurred with every touch. The city lights below flickered like distant candles caught up in a gentle breeze, uncaring and indifferent to the sanctity that thrived silently underneath its gaze. Pierre traced an intricate pattern on Camille's palm as his fingers danced tenderly over her skinner language of love he had learned through years spent in their shared embrace, speaking volumes more than words ever could. This tactile scripture was a sacred relic within the museum they called home. It whispered tales not just to them but also inscribed itself upon history's page with each silent exchange and profound connection that bound Pierre's essence firmly onto Camille's being, as much an integral part of her existence as his own. Camille reciprocated in kind by tracing the outline of a constellation on the floorboards beneath their feet, her celestial map. Only they could read together and comprehend without utterance or glance toward one another's eyes that twinkled with unspoken secrets, resonating like quiet laughter shared between old friends. Their movements were deliberate yet fluid, as if orchestrated by the very muses of affection themselves, a waltz in which their feet met and parted without a hint of hesitation or haste, but rather with synchronous grace that belied an intimate understanding far beyond mere physical attraction. It was here, underneath canopies adorned with flickering lights, amidst the echoes of laughter from oblivious passers-by and lullabies sung by sirens in distant harbors, Pierre found solace knowing that their hearts beat as one, or symphony conducted within his chest, where Camille's love flowed unimpeded through veins intertwined with threads of destiny. The night continued to unfold its enchanting tapestry around them, the sky a canvas painted in hues borrowed from their shared dreams and whisper promises, each star holding steadfast as witnesses between two souls who had transcended conventional love into something ethereal, or bond so profound that even time itself seemed to pause with reverence. Pierre wrapped an arm around Camille's shoulders for support against the gentle sway of their carriage through Parisian streets, a silent vow etched in every heartbeat and breath drawn together under the sacred moonlight, where they found themselves not just within each other's presence, but beyond realms into which no soul could intrude uninvited. The world around them continued its relentless march forward, lovers sharing sweet nothings, children chasing fireflies in fields of golden wheat that waved like seas under a summer sky. Yet Pierre and Camille remained anchored within their own private haven, where the ceaseless waves whispered tales only they could fathom together amidst ripples born from heartbeats synchronized to an ancient rhythm forging onward across time's flowing stream with a love that defied definition and understood no boundaries. Above them hung the heavenser night sky aglow with constellations untouched by humanity's touch, yet forever changed through Pierre and Camille's shared dream of unity, where every star seemed to twinkle in affirmation as if acknowledging their sacred bond that not even eternity could outlast. The city's cacophony dimmed into distant echoes or chorus, fading away with the night until only two hearts resonated within each other's silence, painting every cell of existence with strokes so bold and tender it defied reality itself as they surrendered themselves wholly unto one another. In this world, where their love was not merely a force, but an elemental presence or fusion that transcended mere physicality to become the very essence of being, Pierre held Camille closer with every inching step through cobbled paths and alleyways lined by tales whispered against flickering street lamps. They were two souls entwined so intricately within one another that neither could recall a time when they existed independently, their union an amalgamation of spirits wherein their essence became vessels for each other's core, and heartbeats resonated as if in perfect harmony with the universe itself. Thrice had this nocturnal journey as Pierre and Camille continued their journey under the celestial canopy that night. They found themselves in a meadow where wildflowers danced with gentle breezes, creating an ethereal tapestry of colors as vibrant as any artist's palette. They knelt together on a patchwork quilt of clover and dandelions, or secret garden that only they knew existed within the city's embrace. The ear reached out to pluck one delicate blossom, its petals like whispers against his fingers, as if imparting silent promises of eternity with Camille's touch alone. As each moment passed beneath the watchful eyes of distant constellations, and within the hushed reverence of their shared solitude, Pierre's heart knew no other beat but that which echoed in harmony between him and his beloved. The air seemed to hum with a frequency born from two intertwined souls, or symphony composed by an unseen maestro who conducted strings of affection through the night's cool fingers into their beating hearts, where it mingled freely without judgment or expectation, murmuring tales that spoke not just of love but shared memories and dreams they had woven together over countless moons since first meeting under a cascade of silver moonlight years. As if their conversations spun around them like threads, weaving into the fabric of their existence with each word whispered. Pierre's thoughts meandered through images carved from Camille's eyes and lips that seemed to hold all human emotion within their depths, his own heart a mirror reflecting her essence back at him so pure it blurred lines between reality and fantasy, leaving them both in rapture. The pair had journeyed through countless seasons till each spring brought forth new blooms for the meadow that seemed to know of their love's depth as well. Every autumn leaves fell gently around Camille's delicate frame like a soft embrace from nature itself, acknowledging her presence. The city never slept quite so soundly when they were apart, because it recognized in Pierre and Camille an oasis amidst its concrete rivers, or testament to the profound connection that had become not just their foundation, but also part of what made them whole against a backdrop where strangers passed by like ships unaware of one another's courses. Pierre traced his fingertips along Camille's cheek, feeling every line and crease as if it were the map to her solar cartography that charted their shared adventures across seas of emotion too vast for any other vessel, but each could navigate its depth with compassionate ease. The sensation was intoxicating. A silent language spoken between them without words, understood through expressions and glances heavy with the weight of unspoken truths that no one else might grasp as easily in this world where they were not just totally, they existed apart from it entirely, when their hearts beat as one against Camille's tender skin. The night air grew cooler still, a gentle reminder that time, while an ever-present companion on earthly journeys, knew no dominion here in this sanctuary of souls where each second stretched into infinity until it was impossible to tell one from the other as they lingered together beneath constellations etched with ancient tales. The air's thoughts drifted skyward to a time before them when Stardust and Fate had conspired in their favor, entwining two solitary spirits that sought solace within each other's gaze for the first fleeting moment shared underneath an indifferent moonbeam years ago. In this sacred space, where heartbeats synchronized with a rhythm transcending mere biology, Pierre and Camille had found not just love, but alchemy, their union transforming raw human essence into something more potent than the sum of its parts, because together they were elements in constant flux, yet unyielding as stars, that guided seafarers home. It was here, within this meadow, where every breath intertwined with Camille's, and each shared glance painted their world not just green, but also violet, a spectrum only visible to those whose eyes had seen the love they bore for one another. A breeze carried away a single leaf from an oak tree standing sentinel over them, as if granting permission for Pierre's handsome face to brush against Camille's cheek, where she found solace in his touch or comfort that spoke of forever within the fragile span of their shared breath. The nighttime air held a scent reminiscent of earth and rain. It seemed as if even time itself, as dawn painted gentle hues across an awakening sky. Pierre and Camille found themselves enveloped in a silent communion that transcended language. Their eyes spoke of journeys undertaken through dreams as vivid as waking life itself, a testament to the profound connection forged between two souls who had danced under an indifferent moonbeam years ago. With each shared breath, they conjured memories like ancient runes that illuminated their path forward. These recollections of past warmth served not as mere reflections, but guided them through life's labours with unwavering purpose and direction, or beacon within the tempestuous sea of existence. Pierre reached out, his hand lingering just a moment longer upon Camille's cheek than necessary before retreating back into her hair, where it lay softly nestled among strands that cascaded like waterfalls down to their earth-soaked feet. Together they walked along the meadow's edge as if tracing lines of destiny with each deliberate step. With every sunrise, Camille felt a renewed sense of vitality coursing through her veins, her life force that pulsated in harmonious unity with Pierre's own rhythm. It was an intimate dance where they moved as one being within the embrace of nature's grand ballroom. Their shared laughter rippled across still waters, casting reflections akin to shimmering mirages that blurred lines between dream and reality, a testament to their inseparable bond forged through years, woven together with threads so delicate yet strong they could be spun into myths of legendary love. Each touch whispered promises unsaid, like sonnets composed within the sanctity of shared silence. These moments were sacred pledges etched deepest in their hearts, their souls entwined as roots beneath fertile soil, where seeds sown with tender care blossomed into an endless garden blooming perpetually. Pierre's fingers traced the contours of Camille's face, a silent caress that spoke volumes to her heart. It was not merely physical contact, but rather strokes from brushes dipped in hues painted by their lover, spectrum visible only within this sacred space, where two spirits found solace, as if guided by unseen hands. A symphony of colors danced upon the canvas of Camille's skin, intertwining with threads woven into her hair like vibrant strands connecting them to each other and their shared history, a tapestry that transcended mere aesthetics. It was an emblem etched permanently within flesh itself. As the sun arched across the sky towards its zenith, Pierre's gaze drifted beyond her form into visions painted in shades of goldenrod and amber, kaleidoscope, where time seemed suspended like a drop court between realms. These moments were windows cast open to eternity itself. Camille knew that beneath the ever-watchful eye of celestial guardians, their love was immutable as constellations themselves, while still fragile enough for even stars not to dare touch her paradox, where permanence and impermanence coexisted harmoniously within their embrace like dancers gliding across an ancient floor. Their fingers brushed once more, this time against a blooming flower that stood resolute beside them. Its delicate petals seemed to unfurl before Pierre's eyes, as if acknowledging the transient beauty of human love, a spectacle only visible through lenses polished with tears shed within their shared sanctuary. With each heartbeat, they pulsed in unison, resonating like waves washing over shores drenched by memories too profound for mere mortal comprehension. Pierre and Camille were elements cast upon the stage of existence where fates had woven themselves told for a tale spun from threads interlaced with stardust itself. As twilight descended, casting its ethereal glow over a world awash in hues too rich to behold within human vision alone, Pierre and Camille found solace beneath the boughs of an ancient oak tree, where roots entwined like lovers embracing tightly, an arboreal sentinel bearing witness to time itself. With each whispered word spoken, their voices carried upon breath's wings as if borne aloft by invisible currents. These murmurs were sonnets sung softly against the tapestry of twilight air, where no echo could reach her, language forged within the sacred space that transcended mere sound. Pierre stood still as his gaze lingered on Camille's delicate form beneath him. Their shared sanctuary this ancient garden they had come to cherish over countless seasons of companionship and solitude alike. It was a place where time seemed irrelevant, where past blossoms intertwined with present petals, as if memories were etched into the very soil that held them rooted. As twilight embraced the world in its indigo shroud, Pierre's thoughts began to meander through histories untold and futures yet written, or cascade of possibilities unfolding within his mind like a well-loved book returning for another read. The garden had always been their refuge. It was where they first discovered the depth of each other's souls amidst nature's grand tapestry, discoveries that time and trials could not unravel. Pierre remembered with fondness how Camille once found him lost in thought at a library corner between volumes heavy with wisdom from ages past. Her gentle touch had stirred his heart to the rhythm of their shared pulsar symphony, only known within this sacred space, where every sensation held profound significance, transcending mere sight and sound. Pierre's thoughts drifted as Camille's fingers traced patterns in the damp earth beside him. It was a tactile dance they had perfected together through seasons of joy and sorrow alike, language formed between their hands that spoke volumes beyond words, whispering tales only comprehensible to those who felt with every fiber. As twilight deepened its mantle over the world around them, Pierre's fingers sought Camille's once more in a tender embrace. This time they found comfort against her warm skin as she cradled his face close, a reunion of souls that promised to endure through night and day. Camille smiled softly at the sight before them, acknowledging with closed lids how their shared glances had become silent dialogues over years gone by. Each look held a word unspoken yet understood perfectly between two entwined hearts, where nothing was ever truly lost within this world of impermanence they found themselves in. As dusk settled into night and the garden's shadows grew longer, Camille turned her back to face Pierre once more, her breath fanning out against his cheek like a gentle breeze carrying whispered sonnets between two lovers intertwined on earth's ancient stage, where every star had watched untold stories unfold. Pierre closed the space within their shared gaze, feeling its depth and warmth as one might close an old book or treasure trove of moments that filled his heart with a tender nostalgia for times when they first discovered each other beneath this very ancient oak tree. It had been here where Pierre's fingers found Camille's delicate skin, the beginning of their story written upon nature itself. As night embraced them further into its comforting shroud and cool embrace, an offering from realms beyond human senses alone could not describe, in hues too rich for mortal eyes to behold, Pierre wrapped his arms around Camille's shoulders, feeling the gentle sway of her body as if she were a living extension of him. The garden had borne witness over time. The ancient oak under whose boughs they stood sentinel today was no stranger either, having been part of this sacred space for lifetimes more than Pierre and Camille could fathom. Its gnarled roots twined beneath them like long-lost kin finding each other once again. As stars began to pepper the night sky above a constellation that seemed almost sentient in its watchful presence over their quiet moments of togetherness, Peter's mind wandered through tales as old and endless as time itself. They were but characters within an epic unfolding upon earth's grandest stage. Camille reached out to brush a strand from Pierre's forehead. It was these small acts of tenderness that stitched their days together with golden threads, weaving the tapestry of memories they shared within the sacred space where fates had interlaced themselves around them. As twilight deepened into night and darkness wrapped its velvet arms about everything it could reach, a protective embrace from realms beyond human senses alone, Pierre held Camille closer, feeling the gentle rise and fall of her breath as if they were two hearts beating in unison, resonant like waves upon shore-drenched memories, too profound for mere mortal comprehension. Together beneath this ancient oak tree, where time seemed to pour a tender respite between heartbeats, that Pierre and Camille's love story began in this sacred space. Their initial meeting had been as unpredictable yet destined as the paths of wandering star-swelled lives colliding amidst a constellation of possibilities that fate so playfully weaved together into something profoundly beautiful and tender. In each other they found an echo of themselves from years gone by, like reflections in rippling water where past merges with present. Their shared glances carried the weight of histories untold or misshape, crafted over lifetimes that had now become one under this same stretching canopy. As twilight deepened into night and darkness wrapped its velvet arms about everything it could reach, Pierre held Camille closer than ever before in their shared sanctuary of ancient bark and whispered dreams her protective embrace that transcended human senses alone. They were not merely two people, but an amalgamation of souls seeking solace within the sacred space where fates had interlaced themselves around them. It was here, beneath this oak tree, in a park imbued with memories and magic alike, yet tender respite between heartbeats, that time itself seemed to pour, so that Pierre felt his own heart sinking more profoundly than ever before with Camille's gentle rhythms. Each beat became an anchor of connection, as if the very essence of life pulsed in their veins. Together beneath this ancient oak tree, where time seemed to pour a tender respite between heartbeats, that Pierre and Camille found themselves often lost within its sanctuary, was more than a mere meeting place. It felt like home, an eternal hearth around which they gathered the embers of their love night after night. They had come here as children on bicycles with pegged-out ties, or testament to innocence and adventure that seemed almost mythic against life's inevitable march forward. Now adult, Pierre and Camille were still enchanted by the magic of this place where their love story continued its bloom. And so as they sat beneath the tree on yet another starlit night or constellation, above seemingly sentient with eyes upon them watching over these lovers' shared moments like an eternal guardian, Pierre and Camille wove new threads into the tapestry of their memories, each one a story that held within it echoes from years gone by. They had become characters themselves now in tales as old and endless as time itself, for love so timelessly profound that even if they should be carried away on different wings for all eternity, the stories told beneath this oak would resonate through generations like a hallowed song sung by those who had loved under its canopy. Pierre and Camille knew, as stars began to pepper the night sky above that constellation that seemed almost sentient in its watchful presence over their quiet moments of togetherness, they were but characters within an epic unfolding upon earth's grandest stage, where nature's hand painted backdrops for humanity's greatest dramas. The ancient tree, with gnarled roots twined beneath them like long-lost kin finding each other once again, or silent witness to their shared journey. It stood as a testament not only to the love that had blossomed here, but also to all those who found refuge and joy in its shade before. As they sat, listening to the symphony of night insects accompanied by the rustle of leaves, singing tales older than time, a gentle reminder from this sacred space where destiny's hand steered Pierre and Camille toward each other, their love was as natural a force in its rightful place among life, enduring legacies. It wasn't just about two souls finding solace beneath the protective embrace of ancient bees. As Pierre and Camille sat beneath the ancient oak tree's protective embrace for what felt like an eternity, they allowed themselves to be lulled by the serene whispers of nature that surrounded them on this fateful night. The constellations above seemed almost as if painted with intentional strokes, guiding Pierre and Camille's fingers through each other's hair, while their breath formed an unspoken pact in the cool evening air, a promise to return here time after again beneath these venerable branches that had witnessed so much. The wind began its journey across this sacred ground with a gentle caress, teasing leaves into playful pirouettes and sending dappled patterns of light through the foliage above them like an ethereal baritone they were now partaking in as well, by sharing their deepest secrets. In these hallowed moments beneath the tree's watchful eye, Pierre revealed his fear that he might never find love so pure and untainted again after losing himself to a tempestuous past affair that left him haunted with regret. Camille listened intently as she traced her own experiences through Parisian night markets, where fleeting glances spoke volumes of potential connections, yet each time the moment passed like sand slipping away between one's fingers, ephemeral and unattainable. As their conversation ebbed towards silence once more, with candlelight flickering shadows across Pierre's face revealing lines etched by worry, Camille offered a tender smile that promised solace not just for her heart, but also the understanding of one who had navigated through similar tempests herself. It was then she reached beneath their blanket and retrieved from its folds an aged journal or family heirloom filled with entries penned by Pierre's great-grandfather, a once prominent historian, whose words echoed wisdom that transcended time itself. The gentle rustle of pages turned as they read together, the past flowing into their present like streams converging in an endless river, shared history woven through with threads of love and loss under this very tree's canopy, which had been a silent confidante to generations before them. The oak's own story unfolded as Pierre recounted tales his grandmother once told him, stories of resilience in the face of warfare that took loved ones from their midst but left an indelible mark upon those who remain at her legacy, not unlike Camille's family history, where she had been shaped by Paris itself. In these pages lay histories both profound and personal. They spoke of Pierre's great-grandfather taking solace in the very tree that now shielded them from prying eyes, penning his thoughts as a balm to an aching soul, a reminder that, even amidst life's darkest storms, love could bloom like rare flora finding its way through ruins. Pierre and Camille found themselves intertwined in history's embrace just as these roots had been entwined beneath them all along. The world outside faded to a distant hum of normalcy while they reveled within this pocket dimension where time stood still under whispering leaves that seemed almost sentient with their shared secrets. Within hours, or perhaps minutest time, became an irrelevant concept as tales spun from memory and history alike wove themselves into the fabric of Pierre's being. His anxieties about love faded like mist in daylight, replaced by a conviction that he had found not just Camille but also kinship with generations past. As dawn approached, their shared journey within this sacred space seemed to reach its crescent, our symphony composed of whispered dreams and ancestral wisdom playing out under the watchful gaze of stars, now fading into morning's first light. Pierre's hand found Camille's as they rose from beneath the ancient oak, a silent pact between them sealed not by words but through shared moments that would live on beyond their own fleeting existence, their love story to be carried forth in stories told and untold under canopies like this one. As they walked away hand in hand towards homeward paths yet determined together, each step seemed a note played upon the strings of destiny's grandest stage, where Pierre's heart was finally at peace, her testament to love eternal as time itself would not erode their bond beneath these ancient boughs. With every beat of her own heart echoing through his chest, Camille knew that they had been chosen for this journey together, just like the stars above them were destined points in a constellation or pattern set forth by unseen hands.